So sound is really a wonderful way of working with people who may not be able to breathe as deeply. It gets them to breathe a little bit more deeply. It actually has resonance. There are studies that show, there's a study from the National Institutes of Mental Health and Neuroscience in India that shows that just chanting the mantra Om as compared to S, as compared to silence, it stimulates the vagal nerve, which activates the parasympathetic side of the autonomic nervous system, the rest and digest side of the autonomic nervous system, so it's calming and soothing. Things like Brahmariphi breath and some of the chants that we'll do a little bit of in this session are very healing and in various ways, and research is beginning to corroborate that. So let's say you or someone you are teaching or working with, client, student, is, let's say they really have some negative ideas about chanting Sanskrit, and they're kind of not going to go there. But let's say they come in and they're very agitated. You say, I just noticed there's a little agitation. The sound ah, like sighing out, that big sigh, ah, can help us. So help us just kind of focus a little bit. So, and you might invite them to place their hand on their bellies and inhale and just take a nice ah sound. Ah. You might try that too. Ah. And then you can say to them, or to yourself, if it happens to be you, the sound is the closing sound. This is an aside, not for them. It's the sound is the closing sound of many mantras. It's very soothing. It's a sound that vibrates. It's the end of Om. It's the beginning of Mama, Ima, Ma, Ama, much. We say that when we like something. So when you're working with someone, you might say, the sound is a very soothing sound. Maybe we can add that to the end of ah. So hand on the belly, and let's do a nice ah, sighing out sound, and add the to it. Just makes you kind of want to close your eyes, doesn't it? Very soothing. Now we could stop there, but doesn't it sound a little bit like Amen? So then you've just engaged your student, who may be religious, who may be Christian, in something that's familiar to them. So we could start our sessions together with Amen. So then, you've found a portal in for using sound with someone who may otherwise be resistant to it. With religious Jews, it might be Shalom as a doorway in. But for those of us who come to a yoga therapist or a yoga a psychotherapist who's known to integrate either LifeForce yoga into her sessions, and those folks are already kind of eager for practices that might help them from the yogic tradition. So one thing I think I'd like to do is lead a yam, and I'm going to invite you to place your right hand on your heart and just take a moment there. Maybe close your eyes. Maybe you can feel breath beneath your hand. Maybe you can feel heartbeat. And then take your left hand and link your thumbs. This is Garuda Mudra, Eagle Mudra, giving wings to the heart. So we're going to vibrate the heart with the seed sound for the mantra, for that chakra, Anahat chakra. The sound is Yam. So I'm going to invite you to maybe close your eyes or look down at the floor. We're going to use the yum sound in a meditative way, so emphasis on the Y, a long Y. And we'll go right to the which is also vibratory for the pineal, the pituitary, very good for depression. So we're going to vibrate, and what I'd like you to do is to imagine that you're nourishing seeds of self-acceptance, compassion, self-care. Because we have lots of seeds in there that are self-judging and not good enough and, something's wrong with me. But let's nourish those seeds of self-care, self-acceptance. So if you're comfortable, allow your eyes to close or look down at the floor, soft eyes. And imagine as you inhale that you're going to be nourishing that seed of acceptance in your heart. And inhale, 2, 3, 4, nourishing seeds of self-acceptance. And one more time. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Vibrating the heart with love. And allow the breath to find you again. Maybe that image that you saw at the top of the mountain, if you saw one, beautiful image there on the altar of your heart. And then as you're ready, you can allow your hands to come down and your eyes to open. So most people tend to feel a little vibration at the heart. When we've been hurt, we've all been hurt. We've all had a broken heart. But when we've been hurt, the natural thing to do is to protect ourselves, to put up walls. And sometimes we carry those walls long beyond the time that they're necessary. They don't serve us anymore. In fact, they keep us from feeling. They keep us from connecting with each other, even with ourselves, because you're just kind of shut down, a little stony. So the practices that we do, they are helping us in little ways, not in the big shamanic ways of reaching in and opening the heart, but in little ways we're beginning to soften. And in a context where that feels sacred and where there's a good therapeutic relationship, a good sacred space, we begin to be able to trust again. We begin to soften in the heart. There are many ways that we do that, not just with mantra, but with sharing with others, with just yoga practice. I remember going to a yoga class at a famous studio out west. I won't mention the name. Everybody rolled out their mats, got at the top, did their prayers, and did their Series A, sun salutations, and nobody talked to each other. Nobody. At the end of the class, they rolled up their mats, stuck them in the bins, walked out. It was like, I thought, that's not yoga. Yoga is connection, it's union, it's community, it's sangha. And that's why a class should be welcoming. I think every teacher needs to create a sacred container, let people know, not just that they're physically safe and that they can adjust, modify, adapt, but that there's a sense of safety in that permission is granted for crying. Permission is granted for body noises. Nobody needs to feel shame. Nobody needs to feel not good enough in a yoga class. And especially if someone walks in with depression or anxiety. And you know, a lot of people, when I teach up north, I won't say where, in the wintertime, I'd say 80% of the people who come into that weekend are on psych meds. And, you know, we're all just trying to get by, trying to, and I don't feel that you need to stop taking your, definitely don't go cold turkey on your meds just because you start a yoga practice. You need to slowly titrate, slowly. If you start a yoga practice and it's daily and it's a long-term yoga practice, that includes, again, cueing to sensation, and I'll tell you what I mean by that in just a moment. Cueing to direct sensation after the practice and breathing. If you're doing those two things, then it's impossible to not feel your feelings. You know, you can't tamp them down. Some people can use yoga as a numbing out strategy not to feel. But if you're staying present to the sensations in your body as you practice, if you're practicing with breath, what needs to be seen will arise. So that might mean tears, and it means that the container needs to accommodate that and welcome it. And the yoga teacher's job is to welcome it in. That's why we teach our LifeForce Yoga practitioner training, is so that not only mental health professionals, but yoga teachers know how to manage the emotions that come in. People come in with back pain, one-on-one sessions, they come in with back pain, or they come in with shoulder issues or knee issues or, you know, hip issues. But there's usually an emotional component. And if you are working with someone, that will probably bubble to the surface at some point. So I think it's important that yoga teachers know how to help contain that and to allow it to, first of all, normalize, not pathologize tears, which sometimes happens. I know it does happen, because one of our LifeForce Yoga practitioners was told after her very first class, and this is a very well-resourced woman who'd done tons of therapy, ran a major company, very intelligent. She goes to the yoga teacher at the end of the class and says, it was her very first class, I cried on my yoga mat. And the yoga teacher said, you need psychotherapy. You need to see a therapist. So immediately pathologizing what's a normal release. So that's why I think it's very important for not just therapists to integrate some of these practices to help their clients focus, to create a deeper and better therapeutic alliance, to give them tools to self-regulate when they go home, to help clients have better access to feeling states, for all those reasons. And also, therapists have a heck of a lot more fun when they're integrating some practices into their talk therapy sessions. They're enjoying it more. So, and we do teach what's appropriate in a clinical setting and what isn't. So again, I said this earlier, but Kapalabhati and Uddiyana Bandha and Nali and those kinds of very vigorous Kriya practices may put people at risk. So those aren't appropriate. So you want to find practices that will work for folks who have high levels of anxiety and won't put them over the top. So I want to get back to sound, and then I'd like to stand up and show you some of those practices that I just mentioned that might be appropriate in a clinical setting, and also, of course, yoga settings. So we're not going to talk in this session so much about asana, although asana is important. I'm not talking about it because it isn't important. I'm talking about the things that you don't get in regular 200-hour trainings that are also very important. So let's talk a little bit about sound again. So again, good research behind it, and these sounds can activate if someone, say, has root chakra issues. And we tend to have root chakra issues when we've had some trauma in our lives, especially early in childhood. You know, the root chakra is the basic, survival needs. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Do I have enough food, shelter? Do I belong? We all have the seed of I don't belong here. You get triggered when you walk into a room and, oh, that person has that background and I don't, or these people are all therapists, or these people are all yoga teachers and I'm not, or these people they all know each other and I don't know them. We have that little seed that sometimes get triggers in all kinds of situations. But people who have serious mood disorders, they're walking, that seed is big. It's like the full-grown tree. They walk around feeling like they don't belong anywhere. So we want to give that sense of I belong here. And that's root chakra. So basic standing postures, mountain, Tadasana, tree pose, just really good postures like that. And warriors, are good, stable, steady, strong, strengthening poses. But there's also a whole set of practices that can be done in a chair, sitting down, or standing as well. Because in LifeForce Yoga, we integrate the sound into the poses. That gives it more resonance, more depth, and more grounding. So, for example, we're not going to stand up right now and do a pose with it, but if we wanted to ground more, and I'm going to also, in this, I'm going to give you an example of cueing to sensation as well. So, let's bring into your heart's mind an image that feels really sturdy and strong. Maybe a time when you felt really strong, courageous, or maybe something in nature. And you can lower your eyes or close them. And we're going to use a mantra. We're going to use the lum sound. We're going to emphasize the L. Okay, so we'll do that in taking in a breath together. Lum. Root chakra, grounding. As you wish, as you're ready, you can let your eyes flutter open. I'm going to show you a mudra that we're going to add to it. So we're going to do this mudra at the root. So first of all, I'm going to do it up here so you can see it, and then I'm going to lower it down to my root where I'm not sure you can see. So we're linking making fists, linking the little fingers, and then lowering it down as low as you can to your root, using isometric pressure, so you're pulling. So it's energizing, but it's grounding at the same time. So inhale, 2, 3, 4. And again, inhale, 2, 3, 4. And release. Inhale to the crown, I am. Exhale to the sits bones, here, grounded. Inhale to the crown, I am. Exhale to your seat, here, steady, present. And then allow your eyes to open. So that might be a practice you would do to really ground. You can do it in Tadasana. You can do it in a number of different, in Utkatasana chair pose. You could even use it in Vrikshasana tree pose, to ground into one leg, really grounding. So notice it's we're doing it the emphasis is on the L, the energy, and every Sanskrit letter of the alphabet, the 52 letters, is a verb. They all have energy, and the energy is in that first letter. That's why we emphasize the L when we really want to ground. We could go through the whole chakra system, but we won't right now. I didn't do what I did is I didn't do the cueing to sensation because I want to do that after a breathing practice, which we'll do in a moment. What I did was I invited you to inhale to the crown, I am, exhale to the root or the sits bones or the seat here, grounded, steady. That's a way of grounding also. And if you do any kind of, especially if you do a pranayama that's a little more active, very important to ground it. And so cueing to inhaling to the crown, I am, exhaling to the root here is an excellent way to do that.